So let's continue with tutorial 5.1.3. In this tutorial, we are going to understand about the key criteria for selecting the large language model, small language model for software testing tasks in any given context. So let's see how you are going to select the large language model or small language model for software testing tasks. What are the criteria to consider? Usually, if you see the current market scenario, there are many large language models. Diverse range of models is available, each with unique strengths. And selection of the model is not about choosing the biggest and most advanced and popular model. It's about what is most fit in your organization and for your project. You should be choosing that and not the just popular ones. If we talk about the functional capabilities, some of the criteria that you can use to decide which model is best fit. Functional capability, just check for that. Multimodal input. Do you need the multimodal input, wherein can the model process images, UI, screenshot alongside text or not, videos, all of that. Reasoning power, does it passes the logic required for complex test analysis and edge case generation. So these are some of the functional capabilities that you can check in a model because you are using it for the software testing tasks. So you might be sharing the defect screenshot, you might be sharing the logs, you might be sharing the requirement document to get the detailed analysis. So is model providing you those functional capabilities or not? The second thing is technical feature, context window size. What is the context window size that a model supports that you are analyzing? For example, can the model ingest entire requirement document or large code bases in one go or not? If your use case is that the complete user requirement or the document should be able to get processed and context window should be that big, then you know which model you have to go ahead with. Licensing type, do you want to pay or do you want the open source model? Is your organization happy to pay for the subscription cost of the commercial model, so which is often higher out of the box performance with vendor management support, because you will get vendor management support, for example GPT-5, Gemini and all. If you go ahead with the open source model, provides transparency, data sovereignty and ability to host internally. If you're hosting internally, then you know that you have the data that lies within your organization. For example, if you're using Llama or DeepSeek, so you can choose according to the license type and what your organization prefers. Then core selection criteria of LLM and SLM for testing. To ensure that the selected model delivers value, test organization must evaluate it against four foundational criteria. First thing is model performance. Simply relying on the generic benchmark is not going to help evaluate the model against a task specific benchmark. For example, your project and your organization is more into software development and testing, using the metrics, for example, PAS1 for code generation or BERT score for requirement analysis to measure the accuracy of the model. Okay, so this ensures that if the model performance is good for BERT score, then you know that for requirement analysis the specific model will be good. For code generation, the model will be good. Fine-tuning potential. Assess if the model allows further training or domain-specific data. Is fine-tuning allowed on the model that you are choosing? Because you might later be fine-tuning the model to increase its relevance in your organization's context, in your domain. For example, you are into the medical field, so you will need to have the fine-tuning potential of the large language model so that the model understands the medical jargons and medical context. If you want to use it in the banking, does the model support fine-tuning so that I can fine-tune it further with the banking domain data? So that's another important criteria. The third one is the recurring cost. The cost, that is very important factor, because the generative AI or the large language model will cost you money for using it. Okay, so if you are deploying it, there will be cost on the infrastructure. Even if you are deploying internally, there will be cost in the infrastructure, the licensing cost if it is not open source. If it is open source, for maintenance, for the infrastructure, for the upgrades, it will cost continuous money. So factors in licensing fees, per token, per user fees, operational expenses, GPU, hosting, maintenance, etc. So that cost need to be calculated as well before you select a large language model or small language model. High performance LLMs may be costly for high volume regression testing. Small language model often offer more budget friendly alternative for routine tasks. So you have to choose, is your use case only for routine tasks? Do not go for large language model, they'll cost you a lot of money. Okay, so cost is another big factor for selecting the model. Then community and support. What support is available? Obviously, if you're choosing the commercial model, you will get the support. Choosing model with active community support and detailed documentation to aid in the implementation and troubleshooting. So if it is commercial, you will get the support. If it is open source, is there community support? Is there detailed documentation available for that model? That is important factor to consider when selecting the model. Then strategic balancing between LLM versus SLM. So a successful strategy often involves using a mix of LLM and SLM model based on specific testing requirement. Not everywhere you should be just going ahead with the LLM, because LLM will cost you a lot more money as compared to the small language model, when you should be using large language model. Only where you have the complex test strategy, drafting, high level requirement summarization, cross-functional reasoning, where broad knowledge is essential. Automation, code generation, your framework, automation framework generation, that's where LLM is helpful or is required. If you do not have the complex requirements, then ideal is the small language model for the focused task. For example, unit test generation, log file classification, repetitive data validation. These sort of scenarios, you should go ahead with the small language model because they require less computational overhead and can be fine-tuned more cheaply as compared to the large language model fine-tuning. By evaluating the situation and the criteria within the organization, what is the use for the model, what is the context, you should be choosing as an organization. The choice should be as per the complexity and requirement of the model within the organization. So that's all about this tutorial. In the next one, I'll cover another important topic of the ISTQB Gen AI certification. Thank you. See you in the next one.